It hunts in the dead of night, slipping silently through the shadows on bat-like wings. Its upper body grotesquely tears away from its lower half, entrails swaying as it soars in search of its next victim. With an unnaturally long tongue, it snakes its way through the cracks and crevices, feeding on the blood and organs of the unsuspecting. For centuries, this nightmare has haunted villagers, its name whispered only in fear. This is Pantheon mythology, and today we're exploring the question, why are the Manananggal so horrifying? If you too want your name whispered in fear, check out Pantheon Apparel, our clothing brand inspired by legend from around the world. We ship worldwide and are rated excellent on Trustpilot. Link in the description. The Manananggal, the kind of creature you hope only exists in nightmares. Its name comes from the Tagalog word tanggal, meaning to separate. And that's exactly what it does. When night falls, this being tears its upper body away from its lower half in a grotesque display, entrails dragging as leathery, bat-like wings sprout from its back, the lower half left behind like an abandoned husk, while the upper half soars into the darkness in search of prey. The origins of this monstrosity are as dark as its deeds. Long before colonizers arrived, tales of the creatures like Manananggal reflected deep-seated fears of death, betrayal, and unforeseen dangers lurking in the night. To the pre-colonial Filipinos, it was a harbinger of something worse than death itself, a predator that targeted the most vulnerable, feeding on the lifeblood of the innocent. When the Spanish came, their Christian influence cast it as a demonic figure, warping it further into an embodiment of pure evil, whispered about in terrified reverence. What made it even more horrifying is that it wasn't always born. It can be made. A curse spoken in anger might doom someone to this fate. But in some stories, the transformation is chosen. A person trades their humanity for dark power. One unsettling legend tells of a black chick, still alive, that must be swallowed whole or absorbed into the body during a sinister ritual. The chick takes root inside the host, consuming their insides and feeding on their soul until nothing human remains. In other versions, the chick is passed on from a dying Manananggal to its successor, ensuring the cycle of terror continues. From that moment, the victim becomes a monster, destined to rip themselves apart each night and hunt the living under the cover of darkness. The Manananggal isn't just horrifying because of what it is. It's the way it hunts that cements its place as one of the most feared creatures in Philippine folklore. It doesn't burst through doors or charge at its victims. Instead, it waits. Patient, calculated, and far more intelligent than any monster should be. Villagers whisper of its mimicry, a chilling ability to imitate the voices of loved ones. Imagine hearing the soft call of a family member late at night, only to step outside and realize, too late, that the voice belongs to something far from human. Its wings make an eerie flapping sound, faint but unmistakable, often described as louder the farther away it is, a sinister trick to disorientate its prey. But it's not just the sound that terrifies, it's its grotesque precision. The Manananggal is said to hover over sleeping victims, its long snake-like tongue writhing through the small cracks in roofs or windows, seeking the warm flesh and lifeblood of its next meal. Legends often describe villagers waking in the morning to find a loved one mysteriously drained of blood, their skin cold and pale, with no visible wounds. It's no wonder that the tales of these monsters have been passed down like warnings. Lock your doors, cover your windows, and never trust a voice in the dark. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this predator is its obsession with pregnant women. It doesn't just prey on them, it seeks them out. The Manananggal is drawn to the vitality of the unborn child, feeding directly from the womb in what can only be described as an act of pure malice. Many superstitions around pregnancy in the Philippines are rooted in this fear. Families hang garlic, onions, and bundles of salt in doorways and windows to ward off the creature. Others keep sharp tools like scissors or knives under beds, believing these objects will repel its vile tongue. For expectant mothers, the night is not a time of rest, but one of constant vigilance. What makes it even more elusive is how its behavior shifts depending on the region. In some provinces, it is a solitary creature, lurking in the shadows of dense forests or abandoned fields, preying on those who stray too far from safety. In other areas, it is believed to operate as part of a coven, working alongside other aswangs, an umbrella term for malevolent, shape-shifting creatures in Philippine folklore often associated with vampirism, ghouls, or witches. Together, they spread terror across villages. Some versions of the myth describe it as a woman of striking beauty during the day, blending into communities as though it were human. By night, however, its charm gives way to something monstrous. This duality only heightens its terror. How do you defend yourself from something that could be walking among you unnoticed? Even the method of spotting one varies across regions. In some tales, one can be identified during the day by its bloodshot eyes, a supposed sign of its nocturnal feeding. Others claim it avoids strong spices or overly pungent food, its otherworldly nature rejecting anything too human. These regional differences reflect the creativity and fears of the communities that tell its stories, each adding unique twists to the legend. But one thing remains constant. No matter where the stories come from, they agree that the Manananggal is not just a creature, it's a relentless predator, a shadow that has haunted generations. While this creature might feel like a relic of ancient folklore, its terror persists in the modern world, as sightings and stories continue to emerge in both rural villages and bustling cities. These tales are not merely whispers of the past, but living, breathing fears that refuse to fade. As recently as February 2023, in Talisay City, Cebu, panic swept through the community after two young girls reported seeing a winged figure perched ominously on a neighbor's roof. Word of the sighting spread quickly, stirring fear and fascination among locals. The situation grew so intense that the local police stepped in, urging residents to stay calm and avoid spreading unverified claims. But even without hard evidence, the fear lingered. After all, the possibility that such a nightmare could exist, even today, is enough to make people lock their doors and windows tight after sundown. These stories aren't isolated to the remote corners of the Philippines. In rural areas, tales of this predator often involve shadowy figures lurking on the outskirts of towns, preying on the vulnerable. Farmers working late at night or those living in solitary homes describe strange sounds, flapping wings in the distance, an eerie stillness, or even voices calling out from the darkness. But what's especially chilling is how these stories have made their way into urban areas. In crowded cities, it is said to perch on high-rise rooftops or linger in dark alleys, waiting for its next victim. The idea that such a creature could haunt not just the remote wilderness, but also the heart of modern civilization keeps the legend alive and evolving. In cities, the monster takes on a new form, blending folklore with urban myth, adapting to a world where superstition meets concrete and steel. Modern technology has only added to its legend. Social media and video sharing platforms have turned local rumors into viral sensations. Clips claiming to capture shadowy winged figures mid-flight or crouched on rooftops circulate widely, often accompanied by panicked commentary. Some are dismissed as hoaxes or clever special effects, but for those who already believe, these videos are seen as proof that the nightmare is still out there. Blog posts and forums filled with personal accounts fan the flames even further, each story adding another layer to the mythos. In many ways, the internet has breathed new life into this old legend, allowing it to spread beyond the Philippines and spark fear among global audiences. Defeating a creature as horrifying as this one requires both cunning and bravery. Traditional folklore is clear about one thing: the Manananggal's greatest vulnerability lies in its grotesque separation. By night it leaves its lower half behind, standing lifeless in a secluded spot, often hiding among trees or abandoned areas. This disconnection is its fatal weakness. If the lower half is discovered, sprinkling salt, ash, or crushed garlic on the exposed flesh prevents the creature from reattaching its body before dawn. Without the ability to reunite its halves, the monster is doomed to perish when the sun rises. Salt, in particular, is said to be highly effective as it symbolizes purity and acts as a barrier against evil forces. Ash, often from burnt wood, serves a similar purpose, while garlic's strong scent is believed to repel the creature entirely. Villagers have long been wary of leaving their homes at night without these items at hand, often carrying small satchels of salt or garlic for protection. Some might even smear garlic paste on windows and doors, ensuring no crack or crevice is left vulnerable to its slithering tongue. Beyond attacking its lower half, locals employ a range of protective measures to ward off the creature entirely. Amulets, known as anting, are commonly used as talismans to protect against supernatural threats, including the Manananggal. These charms are often blessed by elders or shamans, imbued with prayers or rituals to shield the wearer from harm. In certain regions, prayers and incantations are performed nightly, invoking divine protection to keep the creature at bay. In more superstitious areas, households light candles or hang specific herbs, such as basil or palm leaves, around entrances, believing these act as deterrents. Others perform rituals during Holy Week, an important time in Filipino culture, where special prayers are said to ward off evil spirits. For communities that still believe in its existence, these practices remain a vital part of their nightly routine, a way to hold on to a sense of safety against the terror that lurks in the shadows. Though its horrific nature makes it seem unstoppable, these defenses remind us that even this monster is not invincible. It is the knowledge of its weakness and the strength of tradition that give people a fighting chance, no matter how dire the threat. So then, why is the Manananggal so horrifying? It's the combination of its grotesque transformation, its sinister prey, and its deeper symbolism. The ability to tear its body in two and take flight on bat-like wings is disturbingly unnatural, but it's the way it hunts that truly terrifies, preying on the most vulnerable, particularly pregnant women, and violating the sanctity of life itself. This taps into primal fears of childbirth, fragility, and the unknown. Beyond the physical horror, its detached nature symbolizes betrayal, something trusted revealing itself as monstrous. It embodies the fear of what lurks in the dark, unseen and unstoppable. And perhaps the most horrifying part, under the right conditions, it could be anyone.